Hello, Champagne Dreamers. Welcome back to my channel. I'm your girl, Miss J, or at least my manicure. I'm trying something a little bit different. This is my first experiment with a flat lay video. So I thought I would try swatching a couple of these beautiful new Makeup Revolution palettes that I picked up. This is the Tasty Peach and the Tasty Peach Mini. So we're just gonna do some swatches. We're gonna play around and try out this flat lay format. So you can let me know, do you like it? Thumbs up. Do you not like it? Thumbs down. And let me know how you feel about it. And we're gonna get into that right now. All right, so I've gone ahead and added some of the Anastasia eye primer to my arm. And I've got, this is my favorite swatching brush in the world. This is from Black Moon Cosmetics, and I have makeup all over my hands, so just ignore that. It's fine. I'm a dumpster fire. And, but this I really love. This came with one of the palettes that they sold. I don't know if they sell this. I wish they did, because I would buy like 10 more of them, because every swatch that I do on my website, I use this brush from Black Moon. And I would normally do finger swatches, but because I've got these long talons on, I'm just gonna go ahead and do brush swatches. Again, we're just kind of playing around. And when I'm taking photos for my website, I always know where I want the swatches to end, but I don't necessarily know where they're going to begin to make sure that they end up at that spot. And so it's easier for me. I always start at the end of a row and work backwards, and I start at where I want the swatches to end and work backwards from there. So that's kind of my typical process when I'm swatching for my website. And I'll usually do the brush swatch and then a finger swatch. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in. We tried something and it didn't really work out, so I edited that out. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna go into the first shade, Bloom. And this, you can see, this one doesn't have a ton of kick up in the pan. It's a little bit firmer. You can already tell with Bellini, we're gonna get a little bit more of that flaky, chunkier kind of shimmer. And so I'm gonna come over here onto the primer. And that is a beautiful, like, orchid purple pink. It's almost got a little bit of maybe like a hint of a blue flash underneath, kind of an undertone. That's really a gorgeous shade. All right, so I cleaned off my brush in my color switch. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the shade Bellini, and I can see that that one is a little bit chunkier, a little bit more flaky. And so let's go ahead and get some of that onto the brush. And we'll lay some of this down, but I think I may have to spray the brush a little bit to really get a good representation. This is maybe not too bad. That's okay. So this is Bellini. This is our bright yellow. And it looks like there's a little, I don't know if I didn't clean the brush well enough. It looks like there's a little bit of pink, or else I got some pink in the pan. But I think this is okay. This is an all right shimmer. I would have expected a little bit more of a true yellow. I know that this is a pale yellow, but I would have expected it to be a little bit more pigmented, especially given how flaky it is. And you can layer it up, but you can see how it's really getting that chunky consistency. All right, since we're just testing this out, I didn't do all of the swatching on camera. This is that first row. So from this side, we have Donut, Princess, Butter Almond, Flower, Bellini, and Bloom. Now in the palette, you can see we've got quite a bit of kick up. This is the first shade that I did, and I was like, oh, there's not very much. Well, everything else decided that it was gonna come to the party. So there's a lot more kick up in these other shades, but here you can see really very beautiful. These shimmers are lovely. This one did tend to get a little chunky, and I bet if I played with it, I could peel some of it off. So I don't love that. This one is somewhere in between these other shimmers and this really chunky one. So it's chunkier than like this one or this one, but it's not as chunky as this one. But overall, a pretty color story. I really like this shade Donut. This shimmer Flower is beautiful. It's got a little bit of gold shift to it. So that first row is really very lovely. All right, so now we're working on row number 2, and you can see I've laid down the first 4 shades. And now I'm gonna go in with that orange shade Nectarine. This is a beautiful matte shade. Lots of nice coverage. And again, this is over the ABH eye primer. I really do like that, especially for mattes that hit a tacky primer and darken and don't really like it. The ABH is really great for that because it dries down and it's got no tackiness at all. And then we'll go ahead and do the last shade in that row. This is another one of those chunky shimmers. I'm having to press down a lot more to get that pigmentation. Now this is something that you can work with, or you could foil it using a setting spray. but it definitely has some chunkiness to it, and you can see there's a little inconsistency, and it does tend to like chunk glitter all over the place. This is the second row of the palette. So from this side we have Persipan, Nectarine, Sweet Cheeks, Giant. I love this shade. This is gorgeous. Plummy, and Apricot. All right, so here you can see I've done the first three shades, and now I'm going in with a matte shade Orchard. And that is a really beautiful peachy pink. So the mattes in here are pretty good. Now they're definitely powdery. You can see we've got some fallout. The whole thing here is like a disaster. There's definitely kick up. So if you are somebody who is annoyed by that, you're not necessarily going to love these. But now we're gonna go into this beautiful shimmer. I think this is gonna be gorgeous. This is the shade Georgia. And I cannot wait. Again, lots of powder, lots of fallout. Beautiful orangey red. Oh. I'm not usually a fan of warm tones like this, but I am loving the shades in this palette. All right, so this is the bottom row all swatched. This is Melba, Georgia, Orchard, Fuzzy, Juice, and Freestone. I have to say that obviously I need to play around with it. I'll maybe try to use these in a Face Friday post, but for I Heart Revolution, I'm really impressed with these so far. I think that these over an eye primer work really well. You get really beautiful coverage. I haven't seen any real patchiness. This one you can see kind of darkened a little bit when it touched the primer, but in terms of how I would use this on the eyes, I think that I could use any of these together. I think they look really beautiful. So that is all of these. Now, obviously, again, just to reiterate it, we've talked about it already, but obviously kick up in the pan. If that's a no for you, you're not gonna like this palette because there is a lot. That first shade was kind of a trickster. That was the one we started with, Bloom, up in the upper corner, and that one had the least of all of them. Plummy didn't really have too much, Giant didn't have too much, but you can see the rest of them. Lots and lots of kick up. We did have lots of fallout as I was doing the swatches, but overall, I'm really enjoying the color story of this palette. All right, now we're gonna take a look at the mini peach palette. This one has 8 shades. The pans are a little bit bigger. I'll have to look and compare and see if there is a size difference. There are different shapes, so it may actually be the same amount of product, but at least looking at the palette, they look a little bit bigger. There's only 8 of them, and they don't have names. I looked on the back of the palette to see if maybe there was something on the sticker, but it's just these shades, and so I put down, oh, there's a little crusty. Sorry about that. Classy. That was actually from the Anastasia palette. If you watched my Anastasia ranking my palettes, that's from the mini palette. I'll go ahead and link that. I believe it's up here in the cards, and I'll make sure that if you want to see my ranking, my Norvina Pro palettes, you can take a look at that. But that little yellow thing was from the cover of one of those palettes. But let's go ahead and start swatching this. So I'm going to start in this corner. And sorry, the cards are actually going to be up here. That's a really nice bronze brown shadow. It definitely gets a little bit chunkier. It's a little bit thicker. It definitely hits and kind of sticks, but it's really pretty, and it's got a nice metallic sort of reflect to it. So I think that's pretty. Then we'll do the second shade, this sort of coral red matte. This one has a little bit of a brighter, almost neon kind of quality. So we'll see if this one comes out a little bit sheer or if it has nice pigmentation. Not too bad, not too bad there. You get pretty good color payoff. If you keep blending, it does tend to sheer out a little bit, as you can see. I'll kind of mess with that a little bit. So you do kind of rub away a little bit of it. So that one, just because it's such a bright, you can have a little trouble with that. But overall, it's a really pretty color. All right, so this is that top row of this palette. Again, they don't have names. This kind of old gold is another one of those chunky shimmers that tends to chunk up, and it's a little bit inconsistent. So using that with a setting spray or over a tacky primer or wetting the brush, something to kind of foil that a little bit is maybe gonna help it move a little bit more. This one is okay. Again, with the browns, I get a little bit of that inconsistency. This one was really pretty good. It does kind of sheer out a little bit as you play with it, but not too bad. I think this is probably my favorite from this row. And then this bronzy color is really pretty. I like that it's got those sort of reddish tones, but it does chunk up a little bit like this shimmer. All right, so now we're on the bottom row, and I've done the 3 shimmers, and I'm gonna go in and do that burnt orange matte that's at the front. You can see all of the shimmers are a little bit chunkier. They're kind of that thicker formula that would be better foiled or with a little bit of setting spray or a little bit of moisture. And I'm going to clean off the brush even a little better. You can see still lots of fallout as we're doing the swatch. Now, one thing I do have to say that part of the reason why we might be getting a lot of that kick up and why I get more of the fallout on here is that this is an extremely dense brush. So this is densely packed. It's very firm, and so that can lead to more of that in the pan. Now, I think Makeup Revolution and I Heart Revolution palettes tend to be sort of powdery anyway, but that is something that could be contributing to that is because of how dense this brush is. All right, and there are the swatches of the bottom row. So we have from left to right, and again, we've got those 3 shimmers. These are really beautiful, and you do get a really nice reflect to them. They have a nice metallic quality, but they are a little chunky, and so I'm gonna use a wet brush just to show you. Let's do this shade, and I'll swatch it right next to it with a little bit of setting spray, so you can see how different that is. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some of this Morphe setting spray. I like the Sweet Peach, and it's themed to the collection, so I'm gonna just spray that a little bit. And we'll just put down some of that. So there you can see it just melts that kind of thicker shadow, and it allows it to move a little bit more. Now, I was probably pretty aggressive with that setting spray, so you can see around the edges you get a little bit of that moisture, but it just smooths it out a little bit more. Although I do have to say I still get some inconsistency. You still have to kind of play with it to get it to spread out a little bit. So these shimmers are pretty, and I like the metallic nature of them, but they are definitely a little bit fussy. So just be ready to work with them. All right, so there are swatches of the Tasty Peach and the Tasty Peach mini palette from I Heart Revolution. So let me know, did you like this? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below, or give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down at the bottom of the video, and just let me know, are you a fan of this flat lay sort of format? Do you want to see more swatches? Would you like to see me playing around with my singles? What would you like to see in a flat lay format? So definitely let me know. If you liked this video, if you want to see more, definitely make sure that you subscribe, and on your way out, hit that bell notification icon so that you'll get notifications about all future uploads. If you would like to chat, banter, or commiserate between uploads, you can find all of my social media down in the description box, as well as a link to my website, The World of Champagne, at janessajay.com. Thank you so much for watching, and until I see you again, bye.